acts of compassion often look like kindness and generosity and fulfilling a need. But those acts of generosity come from a place of true response. Those places in us that, like Sharon Salzberg says, who is a Buddhist teacher and author, when we feel love, our mind is expansive and open enough to include the entirety of life in full awareness, both in its pleasures and its pains. And when we open ourselves up, when we bring our entire presence to the reality of life, which includes the pleasures and the pains, when we do that from an honest place of compassion, we can respond with honest acts of compassion. And sometimes when we do that, we do it because we are giving for our own benefit, because we can't bear to see the suffering. Or we support or condone neurosis and appear compassionate and may actually be increasing suffering. There's the other times when we are impelled to give that we forget why we are giving and what is actually needed. This form of compassion is known as blind or idiot compassion. This is not actually compassion. When we are impelled to give, when we are impelled to help, to serve, because we can't deal with our own discomfort, that is not compassion. That is distraction. That is self-serving. I often wondered growing up if altruism was a real thing. And of course, the great example of altruism is Mother Teresa, right, who did these incredible things through her ministry, right? And I just didn't believe that altruism was real because there always was a benefit in the giving. There was a benefit to me as the person who was giving and caring. And as I grew up and began to do honest reflecting of myself, I began to realize I had that thought and that belief that altruism didn't exist because I always gave for my own benefit. I helped and soothed and nurtured because I liked how I felt when I did it. And then I got to discover even more about where that giving was really coming from. That was I giving because it is my nature, it is God's nature to be compassionate? Or was I giving so that I could control the people I was giving to? In our book that we are studying together right now, The Sacred Acts of Loving Kindness by Rabbi Rami Shapiro, he says, I want to please other people not because I care about them, but because by pleasing them, I can keep them under control. My behavior is driven by fear. Fear of their reaction if I were honest and simply said no to the request at hand. He goes on to say that when the people in his life started calling him on these appearances of gracious generosity, saying, don't say yes to me unless you actually really want to say yes. Don't give me that thing unless it's truly a freely given gift. And when his beloved started calling him on that from a place of love, through the gaze of love, he was given the freedom to see different possibilities for himself. It was years for me as an Enneagram 2. If any of you study the Enneagram 2, I am a nurturer, I am a helper, I am a caregiver. And I do that because I feel better when I do it. And it is a natural part of my being. But it took me years to learn how to say no. The simple practice of saying, I'm not available. No, I'm not going to be able to do that. And I still struggle with just the simple answer of no, which, by the way, is a complete sentence. No. I don't have to tell you why I'm saying no. I don't have to give you the woe is me, but my schedule is so packed, and here's why I can't say yes to you. The training, the decades of recognizing that when I stand clean from my baggage, clear from my misbeliefs that my value is created by how I help people, I am able to just simply say no. I am able to simply say no to the things that are not mine to do, and yes to the things that are. I am able to have an honest compassion in my responses, in my choices. I am able to hold that fierce place of love that Sharon Salzberg talks about, that force of love that allows for our ability to include pleasure and pain, my own and yours. And part of that honest compassion is around being able to have enough love to let folks have consequences, the natural consequences of choice. It's actually how the universe works. So think about this for a moment. We teach here in Science of Mind that our belief, our convicted thoughts and beliefs create reality, create circumstances, create physical form, that we are co-creators in this life together based on what we believe and think. And there is not some God somewhere trying to be nice to us and respond to those beliefs in the nicest way possible. It is a mirror reflection of our own consciousness, this life we share, this collective consciousness we all participate in. And I think when we think of compassion, we think it's about being nice, when really it's about being clear. It's about being naked in truth. It's about full engagement and presence without manipulation, without judgment, prejudice, without our baggage. And that is exactly how life comes into form, right? We simply put into the law, into the great mind of the one, our deeply convicted thoughts and feelings and emotions and beliefs, and they appear to us exactly as we put them in. There is not some way station somewhere that's going, well, Amani believes that her value is based on what she gives. So because that's not actually a true belief and not a true idea, we're not going to manifest that because it's not nice. That is not how it works. The law is really a mirror. It is a reflection of exactly what is in front of it, what is put into it. And that is loving. Believe it or not, that ability to be a clear reflection of who and what we are is honest compassion. I want to share from Rabbi Shapiro. God's compassion extends to all creatures, sentient and non-sentient, animate and inanimate. God's love is ahava rabbah, infinite and unbounded. It cannot be earned and it cannot be lost, but it can be ignored. And what I would say is it can be denied. Because we get caught up in this drama of what is wrong with us and what is broken with us. And we continue to reflect that out into the world, in our lives, in our relationships. And we almost wear our unworthiness like a badge. We often find ourselves arguing with people for how effed up our life is. We find ourselves being a champion for how hard it's been for me and why this love that is universal, this infinite compassion that is God, isn't for me because I'm too jacked up. We tell this story of unworthiness that somehow this infinite, unbounded compassion that Spirit is somehow not for me because I've done this, or I feel this, or this happened to me, so I don't get God's love. I don't get the greatest power in the universe. It somehow misses me because I am unworthy. And that is an untrue story. And yet we think we're being nice when we condone someone's neuroses. And that untrue story is a neuroses. It is a creation in our own minds that we continue to perpetuate because we deny the truth of who we are. And one of the most compassionate, loving things I can do for you is refuse to reflect back to you an untrue story. I can lovingly remind you of what is actually true. And you can do that for me. And the way we do that is by bringing our full selves present in every moment, without judgment, without prejudice, without the desire to manipulate. One of the things that I think we do in those stories of unworthiness is we long to feel love. We all long to feel love. We all long to feel comfort. And so we take these stories of unworthiness into our relationships and into our conversations, and we expect that somebody say back to us, "Oh yes, honey, you are awful. You're absolutely right. You're a total F-up. And I love you." Rather than say, "Actually, not an F-up. You don't actually suck, and I love you." And being willing to lovingly sit with somebody who has made choices that come with icky consequences and allow them to have those consequences. Just like Spirit allows us to co-create whatever we want. Just like Spirit allows us to put into the law, put into motion whatever it is that is going on in our beliefs. That very process of creation is a natural unfolding of what we believe we are. And I believe these acts of compassion, honest, fierce compassion, is what allows us to begin to see ourselves clearly and see what is actually true. And see beyond the baggage, see beyond the fear, see beyond the misunderstandings, because we practice honest compassion. Rabbi Shapiro said, "I don't think loving kindness is about being nice. I believe it's about being fearless. To have the courage to mirror reality, you have to be willing to feel everything, even as you cling to nothing." That is tricky business to allow ourselves to meet each moment, and whatever is in that moment, allow ourselves to feel it when it is dire and scary, to feel afraid, to feel the discomfort of what is right in front of us, which may hurt, may be painful, and then let it go. Instead of clinging to the story, clinging to the feelings, there's this thing that I know that we do because I do it. So I get my feelings hurt by something someone says to me, something happening out in the world that I find disdainful. And rather than be in that moment of absolute appropriate response of feeling mad and hurt, I get to do that. I get to do that for those less than 2 minutes usually that it takes to actually feel that. But then I find myself coming back to it. I'm going to play that story over and over and again. When he said, and what could I have said in that moment? And if I would have just said this, and days later, I am clinging to that story. I am clinging to this self-righteous anger. And that stuff has been gone days. That moment has long passed. But I have decided to just put it in my bag and take it with me. And that is an untrue story, but it is one that I am now reflecting out into the world through my own mind. And lo and behold, it is reflected back to me. And my choice in that is to come back into my own mirror, in my own reflections of my own inner world, and get honest with myself. Wow, sweetie, you are really hanging on to that one. You are enjoying this righteous anger. You are enjoying this place of being a victim of somebody else's meanness. And I get to honestly, nakedly unpack what I have decided to put on and take it off and get back to what is true. Sharon Salzberg also says, "We feel neither betrayed by pain nor overcome by it. And thus, when we can do that, we can contact that which is undamaged within us regardless of the situation. We can contact that within us which is undamaged regardless of situations." This is huge. When we recognize the divinity that we are, the truth of our being, we recognize there is a thing in me and a thing in you that cannot be damaged by circumstances, by stories, by traumas, by any situation, current, past, ancestral. There is a divinity in us that cannot be damaged. And when we go to that place of love, capital L love, and we allow ourselves and our minds to settle into the truth of the power of love itself, is when we can access that undamaged place within us and respond with actual compassion. And we get to do that first with ourselves. Honest self-reflection always precedes change. And I don't know about you, but I would consider this time we are sharing collectively on the whole entire planet a time of change. We are at choice about what arises from that change. And Rabbi Shapiro says, what changes us is our encounter with reality. When we really see what it is we do and how what we do impacts the world around us, then we are ready to change, if change is necessary. But that honest self-reflection, that honest discernment and willingness to contact what is undamaged in us, which I choose to call spirit, God, the divine. When we do that, we can look through a clear lens, a judgment-free lens, a prejudice-free lens, a baggage-free lens at our own behavior, at our own choices, and look honestly, like when I say that to that person, this is the impact. Whether that is what I intended or not, we can honestly look at that. When I say that to myself, when I shame myself, I am creating an impact in my own life and in the larger life. When I go out into the world in a way that does not acknowledge my fellow humans, my interdependency with life itself, can I allow that to change me? Can I see how what I do and what I believe impacts the entirety of life? And as Rabbi Rami says, to have courage to mirror reality. Loving kindness and compassion require fearlessness, require courage, require deep honesty with ourselves first. Where am I coming from? Because I really want to help this person. I'm going to save the day. Where's that rising from in me? Is that rising from this absolute, undamaged, clear place of reflection? Or is that rising from my need to feel important? Is that rising from my need to not be uncomfortable because I see so much suffering over there, and I just need to make it go away? So let me throw some money at it. Let me throw some care and some kindness at it because I'm uncomfortable. Full engagement, all the feelings, and not being trapped by them. This is true compassion. Reflecting all and retaining none. Because when my generosity and my kindness is really about me, I'm not reflecting you at all. I'm reflecting me. and I'm making it about me. And I am clinging and holding on to your suffering, which is not kind, not loving. So when I am willing to just be present and listen and watch without judgment, without my own prejudices and biases, which means I have to be aware of them so that I can get them out of the way, and allow that place in me that is absolutely knowing what is true. What is true about you, what is true about me, what is true about life. My response will come from this place of truth, and it could look a million ways. It could look like me packing food and handing it out at Inez Elementary School. It could also look like me saying to you, no, I don't accept that BS. No, that behavior is actually not something I will abide. No, you cannot come into my space. Because what I know about what is true in me and what is true in you, this is not it. That is also loving kindness. It might feel mean. It might hurt. But it doesn't make it less true. And I'm finding in this time, we are seeing even more, and I don't even know if it's more, but maybe it's more visible. This apparent divide, right, in our country around, this camp, the conservative, Republican, whatever you want to call it camp, and the liberal, bleeding heart, blah, blah, blah camp, whatever you want to name those things. But there's the seeming divide that the people over here care about people, and the people over here only care about money. I'm going to just have to say this to make sure we're all clear. That is an untrue story. And yet we think that when we take to the screens and speak truth to power, that declaring these political ideologies and declaring these policies that we stand behind is somehow the same thing as speaking truth to power. It is not. Speaking truth to power has to start with truth. Which means you've done the work of discerning and reflecting why you find yourself in the position you may find yourself. And my guess is it has nothing to do with the name of a political party, but it has everything to do with either how you want to show love in this world or how you are afraid. Whether you wear a mask or don't wear a mask, the bigger question is, why? Why do I wear a mask when I'm out in public? 2 reasons. Compassionate, honestly, with myself. Reason number 1, I truly do want to play a part in protecting my fellow humanity. That is real. And when I am compassionately honest with myself, I am terrified that my 70-something-year-old mother is going to get sick because of something I did. That's just what is true. I don't actually stand on any side of this argument, but I stand in how can I be a place of more love? How can I free myself of fear and be able to meet this moment honestly, nakedly, truly, with all the courage? My heart breaks when I look at the economic devastation so many are dealing with right now. I can also honestly say I don't know the answer. But the thing that I know for sure is that we belong to each other, and we get to carry each other however we can, as honestly and as fiercely as we can. And be honest, are we doing this because I'm so uncomfortable, I just got to do this? Am I doing this because I am ready to build the new world? I am ready to be a place where truth moves more fully out into the manifest life we share together. So I invite you to stop people pleasing. I invite you to stop manipulating with your stories of woe. And I invite you to be a stand, to be a place, naked and free, that knows that we are whole, that our deepest happiness is intrinsic to the nature of our minds, and it is not damaged through uncertainty and change. Thank you, Sharon Salzberg. Let us anchor this truth, the reality that Ernest Holmes shared in the Science of Mind text, the founder of our teaching, that the only guarantee of our divinity is in its expression through our humanity. So join me in prayer as we know that this ultimate divinity, this greatest power in the universe, love, that I choose to call God, and you can choose to call it anything you'd like. But this greatest power, this infinite and unbounded power that is the truth of compassion, the truth of fierce love, the truth of wildly naked honesty, the truth of kindness, that truth is moving right now as each of us. And we are moving as the human beings that we are, made of this perfect divinity. And I know that right now each of us is choosing to build that new world together, interdependent, honestly, powerfully, right now. And I am grateful. I am grateful for every single one of the circumstances we find ourselves in because of the great invitation of my life, of our lives, is to bring forward this universe of love, to bring forward this universe of loving kindness. And I know that we are each in this very moment wildly claiming, yes, I choose to do my part right here and right now. I choose to stand naked and unafraid, claiming the absolute divinity that I am. And that is what I reflect out into the world. Hallelujah. Amen. And so it is.